Cheers. Welcome to Culture Night,
where each week we drink fancy wine and watch movies that are in some way culturally significant. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Sarah, and we are back for Season 5, Episode 5. And if you have been around for a while, you know that we have just been absent.
Mm-hmm. If you've been following in real time, at least.
Yes, we apologize for our absence. We have been very ill for a week.
Just casual sicknesses going through the family.
Yes.
Overall busy life, just tired, but we are back at it again and excited to continue on with this season.
Yes, I've been missing the rom-coms. I think really when I was sick, this is what I needed. I needed some Culture Night in my life. So glad to be back and jump back into another rom-com tonight. But first, what are we drinking tonight?
This week we are drinking the 2022 S5E5 Family Vineyards Zinfandel from Sonoma.
I'm glad that you said it instead of me because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I started to do it and I was like, man, I wish I'd delegated that to her.
I kind of figured it was just like, how the cookie crumbles. This I bought from Costco. So if you are a Costco member, maybe you can find this as well.
Yeah, the description doesn't really tell you too much. It does say that it's vibrant, balanced, and bold. So let's see if that is the case. Anything on
it smells like the Zinfandels that we've had before. It has that very familiar Zinfandel smell.
Mm-hmm. A little floral.
Mm-hmm. But also like maybe like cherry or raspberry, something.
My olfactors are still coming back to me after years or weeks of sickness.
That's also why we haven't been back, because we just knew we wouldn't be able to do the wine justice.
Unless we were like drinking just like Fireball or something.
Oh.
Give it a taste.
Honestly, it tastes way better than I was expecting it to. I had low hopes for it when I was pouring it. I don't know why, but it does taste pretty on par with a lot of the Zinfandels that we've had.
And how it smells, like again with the floral notes on the taste there.
I get a little floral on the after notes, but I also just get like very summery red fruits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
raspberry, cherry. Just that very like fresh fruit flavor. That's pretty good. Honestly, way better than I was expecting. So check it out.
The S5E5 Family Vineyards Zinfandel. Next up, we do not have anything planned for behind the screens this week, so we will move on into our Slept On It segment.
Yes, so we are going back to revisit Mystic Pizza. And does your rating change after sleeping on it? You rated it a 6.8 and I rated it a 7.4.
I think 6.8, maybe honestly 6.5. I don't know. It was okay.
I found myself wanting to go back and rewatch it since we've last been here. Every time I remember it, I'm like, oh, that was nice. I definitely feel like this is going to be something I'm going to want to watch in the fall time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the biggest takeaway for me was that I just loved the weather and the setting for the most part. The movie itself was okay. But as for it being a rom-com, like, yeah, I think there were some funny notes for it. It was fairly romantic in some ways. It was kind of messed up, but yeah, it was fine.
I would ask rom versus com, but it's also kind of been so long that I can't even really give it a good score.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it was fairly balanced, honestly.
From what I remember, yes. I feel like it was more into the romance than comedy.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, if we're rating each on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm gonna say like a 2.5 for comedy and a 3.5 for romance.
I will agree with that for sure. All right, and now it's time for some fact snacks.
All right.
So I don't have a ton. There wasn't a ton out there from what my quick Google search. Again, these are snacks, not full meals of behind the scenes information about the movies.
Just a bite of pizza. Yeah,
it is. Yes, just a little. It's a Totino's pizza roll. So my first fact snack is that it is actually based on the real town of Mystic, Connecticut, and a real pizza shop called Mystic Pizza in that town.
Interesting.
Which I had no idea.
A lot of free publicity for them.
Right. And I'll skip to one of my later notes is that the actual Mystic Pizza restaurant was too small to film in, so they had to build a separate set for it, and they built the set inside an old home that had been turned into a warehouse and office. And then later on, after the movie came out and it became such a success and people were coming to Mystic, Connecticut to go to the pizza shop, they ended up remodeling the inside of the pizza place to kind of look more similar to the movie.
Makes sense.
Which is pretty cool. And now I'm like really ready for a New England road trip.
We're going to have to stop in Mystic, Connecticut.
100%. Because another one of my later notes is that the secret recipe for the real Mystic Pizza is still unknown. They have not revealed it. So in the movie, they were talking about like no one knows the recipe, no one knows the recipe, and the actual place has a secret.
Oh, the real one.
The real place.
I was like, well, that's kind of dumb. It's a movie. Why would it? Oh,
the real place has not revealed whatever the secret to their pizzas are.
Interesting.
So, fun fact, or at least at the time of whenever article I was reading was published, they had not released it. All right, so a couple more behind the scenes things is, again, leaning into the town aspect of it, is that a lot of the locals got involved in the film, and there were up to 700 extras that participated in the movie, and a lot of the locals helped to build the sets, and they also helped to teach the actors how to string bait for lobster traps, which I feel like is pretty cool.
For like the one scene they were doing that?
They were out on the water a handful of times, but I love when, like, it's not like filmed in LA on the warehouse. Like when you go to a community and the community like really embraces that. I feel like that's so cool. Makes the film a lot more special. And then what is a fact snack behind the scenes without talking about Julia Roberts, our leading lady in the movie. And she was actually initially auditioned to play JoJo, but the casting thought that she made a better Daisy. So they pivoted her. I definitely feel like the girl who played JoJo was JoJo to her core. I
think I could have seen Julie Roberts as the JoJo. It would have been a slightly different movie, but I could definitely see her in that role.
Oh yeah, I definitely see her as that as opposed to Kat. But I feel like JoJo was just really good. And Julie Roberts also only earned $50,000 for her part in this movie.
Dang.
Because I think it was one of her first, if not her first film. And
how much did Matt Damon make?
Hopefully a lot less than that, since he was on screen for like 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it said she went on to like break a record of making the most for a film of over $20 million or something. I don't know how much longer it was later, but
started from the bottom, now she's there.
Right. And then my last fact snack is that Annabeth Gish, who played Kat, she was only 17 when the movie was being filmed. So in all of the romantic scenes that she had with the guy who played the dad, Tom, I think was his name, her mom had to be on set for all those romantic scenes.
Awkward.
So awkward. But also like even more creepy knowing that she was only 17 and her like character was supposed to be with this married man, which was already a gross enough storyline as it was, but
very, very weird. Yeah, it was kind of cringy, honestly, like watching it in modern day.
Yeah. I mean, it was very cringy, but also like it still happens. It's not like not unheard of. So I think it is very interesting that it was highlighted as one of the relationships. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I stick with my 7.4, and I'm excited to move on to tonight. So do you have any more thoughts?
I don't think so. Feels like it's been so long ago since that we actually watched it, so I don't really have much more to add about Mystic Pizza, unfortunately.
I know. I feel like I feel like it's probably been like almost 3 weeks at this point since we watched it. It's been a long time. So anyways, we are moving on from Mystic Pizza and into tonight. What are we watching tonight?
Tonight we are watching Notting Hill from 1999. It is rated PG-13. Now let's hop into our time machine back to 1999. Where the top 3 movies released that year were Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, grossing $430 million, The Sixth Sense, grossing $276 million, and Toy Story 2, grossing $208 million. Notting Hill was all the way down at number 12, grossing just a measly $116 million.
Crazy. I did hear recently someone talking about how there's a book about how 1999 was like the best year for film. And just, so I was like, oh, this is 99. I'll get to like actually skim down the list. And it's a good list of movies because Austin Powers came out, Wild West with Will Smith. I'm trying to remember, of course, I can't remember any
That's
of them.
crazy. They give all these.
The Sixth Sense, is that on this list? There was...
It's just crazy thinking about all those coming out that same
The
year.
Matrix.
Existing at the same time because they all seemed like they're very different movies. And man, what a year.
And Tarzan came out. So like Tarzan and Toy Story 2 and then The Sixth Sense and The Matrix and Notting Hill, which we'll find out about that. I mean, and then Austin Powers. They're just like such a wide range of movies.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about like some of the movies that we've seen that are like in the 60s, 50s, where like 10 movies came out at all in that year. And just like these top 10 were crazy.
Yeah. Rough year for if they're trying to win any awards or anything like that.
Definitely.
So the top 3 songs released that year were Believe by Cher, No Scrubs by TLC, and Angel of Mine by Monica. man, No Scrubs, what a banger.
Right.
I mean, I see why it was behind Believe by Cher, which also it seems like that song should be older than that.
I remember my dad really loved Cher, and he
I mean, who doesn't?
I know. And he just really loved that song. So that feels about right in the span of my lifetime. But it
I would have said like 89. Just it seemed like it had been more part of my life.
Yeah.
Crazy. Anyways, have you seen Notting Hill before?
Nope. Have you?
I have not.
Oh, good. I was really, the way you
would be surprised if I have.
The way you paused for a second, I thought you had seen it. And I'm like, how on earth have you seen this
Nope.
movie?
Okay. What do you know about this movie?
I believe Julia Roberts is also in this movie.
I think so too.
But I also, like, if you told me it was like Julia Stiles, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Like,
I want to say there's is it Jude Law or Richard Gere or someone like that? Hugh Grant, maybe?
I think it's Hugh Grant.
Okay. I was going to say Jude Law, but he'd be too young.
And Richard Gere would be Pretty Woman. And
yeah,
I don't know that they would put them together again.
Yeah. Okay. It might be Hugh Grant then.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I know nothing about it. Nodding. Do I know about it?
I'm just going to let you go into your guess of this. I can't even acknowledge that.
I'm trying to think of like what a good prediction would be. If it was a K in front of the N, then I would have a pretty good guess about it. But with Notting Hill, it sounds like a bed and breakfast. So my guess is that this takes place at a bed and breakfast, and Julia Roberts comes with her fiance, and something happens, and she falls in love with Hugh Grant. Is that who we said was there? Mm-hmm. Hugh Grant, who works there and is running this bed and breakfast, and they end up falling in love at Notting Hill.
All right, love that. I am going to go with that Notting Hill is in UK, England. And I'm really hoping for
like
a really cozy British rom-com, like with vibes of like the holiday, like her, like maybe not Christmas necessarily, but like English countryside living with Hugh Grant, obviously. That's me thinking about that as well.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like the like New England instead of actual Old England.
I figured you were thinking, so you say New England and I say Old England. And I think Julia Roberts is going to somehow be the American in Europe.
Big,
maybe she was like scorned before she left, heartbroken. She's going away, similar to Kate Winslet in The Holiday. She's getting out, doesn't want to remember the man she left behind, and then falls in love with Hugh Grant.
All right, let's see who's more right in the end.
Oh, I'm excited. I feel like this is, again, being in the 90s too, I feel like this is really going to have all those like real good elements of a rom-com that I'm looking for.
Montages, really angsty scenes.
Really good soundtrack. I'm feeling like it's got to have a good soundtrack.
Oh, high hopes now.
Oh, man. All right. Well, now we got to stop talking about it because I'm too excited, and we will catch you in the after show after we watch Notting Hill.
Cheers.
Cheers. That was Notting Hill.
I didn't see a single hill in that entire movie.
I didn't even think about that.
Lied to.
Oh, man.
Before we get too deep into the movie, though, let's start with our wine scale. Now, this season, for those of you who have been watching so far, you're familiar with this. Those who have been watching for previous seasons might be a little confused, but this season, we are drinking medium shelf wines.
How would you describe it? What level of arm would you?
Yeah, like, arm level, shoulder level. Just kind of like reach out like that kind of wine. Not top shelf, not bottom shelf. Just like a good, decent wine. Things you might find in the grocery store, or in our case, at Costco. So these wines are not going to be necessarily like, crazy great wines. So the scale this season is not weighted. So above 5, take it. Below 5, probably leave it. That being said, this wine I'm going to give a 5.4.
I was going to give it a 5.2.
Yeah, it was.
It was not bad. Was it anything to write home about? Not particularly. But would I drink it again? Sure.
Yeah.
It was, like a Wednesday night sitting around watching a rom-com? Absolutely.
I wouldn't run away from it, but I'm also not going to be like, oh God, this is on the menu, we got to have it. It's more of like, well, we can't miss with this one. It's okay.
Yep. I'm glad that we are eye to eye right there.
It was a wine. I think that's kind of the theme so far for the season. given that we're not reaching for top shelves, we've not found any crazy hidden gems yet.
I think that we are going to drink Tobin James next season and be like, bless you, sweet child. Welcome home.
That being said, also our after show wine this season is not Black Box, but so far, just not even, it's kind of coincidentally, not for any reason. It is the Kirkland brand from Costco, not a sponsor, Cab Sav from their boxed wine collection. And I kind of want to do like a Black Box taste test.
We should.
A direct comparison because it's pretty good.
I've also been enjoying it more. I need to have another sip right now, but
Again, not a sponsor.
I've been enjoying good old Kirkland brand.
Mm-hmm. It's a little less sweet, but maybe also the wine we're comparing it to is
it's
closer.
Different than Black Box.
Yeah.
We should definitely do a taste
But they're
test.
both Cab Savs, right?
Yes, they are. So maybe perhaps, follow us on Instagram at Culture Night Pod. Stick around for a potential like bonus reel or story or something where we taste test Kirkland brand versus Black Box.
The fans want to see it. So moving on to the movie rating out of 10. Now this is a bit more subjective. I think we both have kind of slightly different scales. This season we're watching more rom-coms. So it's a little bit different in that we're not watching things that are like super cinematic, cultural phenomenons, all these things where it's, all these all-lasting things. It's more, I think we're going to try to grade them on like as a rom-com itself. That being said, I'm going to rate this one a 5.3.
I love when you just voluntarily go first, so I don't have to go first. It's this like instant internal relief of like, oh, thank God it's him first, not me. I was going to say 5.7. So again, we are right. Yeah. I mean, overall, I'm just going to go out and say it. I was kind of disappointed. Like, it was very slow and very long.
Yeah, it dragged. That was one of my main remarks.
But, like, Julia Roberts is great. Hugh Grant is great. And, like, Cozy London, I'm not going to say no to that. That, like, it was definitely not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it was just very long.
Yeah, I want to get.
We can go through the rest of the stuff, but I just had to give a little.
Do the movie description, then we can go into what you expected, because I think that's going to be a big kickoff point for this. So, the movie description is next. In this one, famous Hollywood actress comes to a small-ish, maybe neighborhood outside of London, and meets a bookshop owner, and they start kind of like a fling, and a bunch of complications arise, and I don't know.
They fall in love.
Fall in love, yeah. Complications and whatever.
And whatever. Okay. Anyways, the description according to the TV is William Thacker is a London bookstore owner whose humdrum existence. Oh, geez.
So they didn't give him a adjective before his name, but humdrum is...
His existence is humdrum. Is thrown into romantic turmoil when famous American actress Anna Scott appears in his shop. A chance encounter over spilled orange juice leads to a kiss that blossoms into a full-blown affair. As the average bloke and glamorous movie star draw closer and closer together, they struggle to reconcile their radically different lifestyles in the name of love.
Well, I'm sorry I left out the very important orange juice scandal.
I know, exactly. That was exactly what I was thinking when you finished your description, is where was the orange juice?
But I feel like in so many of the descriptions we've seen up to this point, it's been like an adjective, like the dashing William Thacker or something like that, they didn't go quite that route. They went with more of we're going to see how many thesaurus words we can use to describe things after the name. So I appreciate that.
Exactly.
Was the movie what you expected?
No.
No, it did not quite match my estimate.
I was more right than you. It was definitely...
The
London thing.
The New England versus...
the Old England versus New England. I did not expect her to be a movie star. It was like very weird. And I feel like that must be weird as an actress to be playing a famous actress as a famous actress in a movie.
Yeah. But also like in Ocean's 12, I think Julia Roberts plays Julia Roberts.
True.
So I think maybe it became a thing for her to kind of play an actress as this. Was this before or after Pretty Woman?
After.
I want to say it was after too, because they also.
I want to say Pretty Woman was like 1990 or something.
Because they made a reference to like prostitution or something.
There was a couple prostitution things, and I was like,
and I just felt like it was kind of poking fun at the whole Pretty Woman thing. But yeah, it was a weird, definitely like very non-traditional like plot thing there where it was like she was the famous actress and he was like this like just normal British person, whereas I feel like usually it's kind of the opposite of like it's this
The famous actor that the girl is pining over.
right. So it was different in that way, but it still felt kind of weird and awkward the whole movie
Yeah.
and not quite believable.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It just wasn't believable. It was too close to home, I guess. Like she's obviously like, I feel like some of the clips were like her actual red carpet clips at the beginning.
Probably.
And that was just weird.
Well, better of those than from Mystic Pizza where they had the obviously photoshopped.
Very true. You're still
Pictures
not
there.
over it. You're still not over it. How well did it age?
I think it aged fine. I think paparazzi is still obviously a thing. It probably would be slightly different if it was made as more of a modern current day thing, but there would still be paparazzi. It'd still be a whole bunch of like drama over the smallest little things and tracking celebrities all throughout the world.
I can tell you that he most certainly wouldn't own a travel bookstore.
Yeah, that
was super dating.
Yeah.
Like that is not a thing.
You might have an app or something, but that's about it.
Or you just have like the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd be kind of out of work then. How well did the movie age / could it be made today?
I think it could be made today.
Yeah.
I think social media would play a larger role than the paparazzi. Like, I feel like it would be less paparazzi and more like, oh my gosh, did you see her on her story? Blah, 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 blah. Like, I think it would be more.
Yeah.
That
And it would
is the
spread a
turning
lot
point.
faster and wouldn't have to be like a whole bunch of like people would be more following this stuff in real time. Her at a restaurant or anything like that would be immediately caught and Instagrammed and shown.
Definitely.
Did they say the title of the movie in the movie?
They did.
Towards the beginning too. Talked about the neighborhood of Notting Hill.
True, but then she also said it at the end, or like not in the middle when she was staying with him, and she was all mad after she had been found out. Like, I'm staying in Notting Hill, and I was like, "Ooh, movie title."
Yeah, they said it in the beginning.
Yes, I guess
with the
it was like his
voiceover.
voiceover.
Yeah. And then did the title fit the movie?
I don't
really.
think so.
No. I don't really know of a better title.
I feel like Notting Hill to me is like they're two British actresses that fall in love in their little small town, and just like it's like the whole Hollywood movie star thing was weird.
Trying to think of like names for like paparazzi or like.
But it wasn't even. It was like snippets about the paparazzi. But I get what you're going for.
Yeah. I don't know.
It just
A Boy's Life, maybe.
it all boils down to A Boy's Life. I mean, how many of these films are written by men
Right.
about men?
Most of them probably.
Just saying.
And it was from the point of view of a boy, a man's life,
yeah.
a boy's life.
Was it about a boy?
Could it? There you go.
Now that is
think that one-
most certainly a joke that was played all the time with me and my friends.
Might have been taken, and I'm not sure if Hugh Grant might have already possibly been.
Was in that movie?
Well played. Were there any actors that went on to do bigger things?
Little old Misha Barton. That was a shocker and a half.
Playing the large role of 12-year-old actress.
I just I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that I feel like the OC came out like 3 or 4 years later, and she's so small in this, and she is Marissa in the OC just a couple of years later, and just how quickly.
Puberty's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, man.
There was also the actor that played Lester Freeman from The Wire.
Yes.
Also was one of the interview there. Alec Baldwin, I think, was in the middle
he
of
had
his
already been
time.
stuff, but very minor. He was uncredited according to whatever I was looking at.
And then the roommate Spike went on to play
Xenophilius Lovegood.
Luna Lovegood's dad in the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. Big role. So, kind of.
Yes.
Some
Misha
actors.
Barton wins the award though.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like a Matt Damon thing where it was like, oh my God, that random person playing an extra almost in that role went on to do some bigger things. I don't know what she has done besides the OC, but she was kind of a 2000s cultural icon.
Oh God, yes. Oh, Marissa.
What movie do you think, or what impact do you think this movie had on pop culture?
I don't think it had one.
Yeah.
I think it was just like another. I mean, it had Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant, so like big people at the time. I don't think it impacted other things. I think it was just, again, kind of like Mystic Pizza. It just like was a rom-com that fit that mold.
Was one of those of that time. I don't know. Was this based on a book or something? I want to look that up. It just seems like something that would. It
has
seems
book
like
vibes.
the name of the title of a book that my like mom would have read. I don't know. And I don't know. It just seems kind of like a cheap like romance novel turned into a movie type thing.
Yes, I can agree with that 100%.
So I don't know. Like you said, I don't think it had any impact. It just kind of like was not necessarily a sign of the times, but was just part of those late 90s rom-coms, I guess.
Do you feel cultured after watching it?
Not particularly.
I mean, I'd heard of it, so I'm glad it's like a check the box. Like I feel like, okay, I've seen this now.
Less of the movie and more of just seeing another like young-ish Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts.
Yeah, I don't think I actually wrote it down, but like one of my notes was like in my head was Hugh Grant is like a baby. I guess I'm just so used to
had a lot of hair,
but even
fully in the penis part phase.
Even Love Actually is not that much farther after this, but he looks significantly younger in this.
Yeah.
And I mean,
because Love Actually was what, 03?
Yeah. It's only 4 years before this. And I mean, maybe it was like filmed in 98, filmed actually in 2003, came out late 2003. So there was a little bit more of a gap, but like, it was not that big of a gap. But I mean, as soon as you saw his face close up, I was like, whoo, you are a little baby.
Yeah. Must have been trying to maybe play someone younger and was actually older during Love Actually, or just something because like I agree, he looks vastly different and much more mature in Love Actually than here.
I mean, he's the prime minister. He carries more weight than the little travel bookstore. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I do feel mildly cultured in that I've heard of it before, seeing these people in earlier stages of their careers.
Yeah, more cultured in the actors than the movie itself.
I agree with that. All right. I have no idea who did notes first last time because it's been 100 years.
I will go first for notes then. My first is that Hugh Grant is so good at voiceovers.
He is. But it was also like a hello stereotype. Like, of course, he's doing a voiceover of this.
There's obviously Love Actually. There's probably more. And he seems like the tone and kind of like the somewhat not sarcastic, but the way he like describes things in his voiceovers and both of those, I don't know. I like it.
I think he should get into audiobooks because I would 100% listen to audiobooks.
He'd be amazing at an audiobook.
I mean, I listen to like 100 audiobooks a year, and if Hugh Grant wanted to start narrating them, he would be a lot better than a lot of the people I listen to.
Don't like Hugh Grant. I don't know if he's like done things, but I like him. I think he's funny as an actor.
I thought he was hilarious. I think that's one of my notes. Hugh Grant is very funny. His comedic timing is very good, especially for like the role he was playing in this of kind of like average Joe guy and just like kind of making fun of himself. Like it was just so good. We laughed out loud many times.
I can just see him like being like made fun of in something like Family Guy and that kind of off-putting to people, but I like him. And
now I'm like, oh my God, did he do something? Like,
right. Worried. Most people did in Hollywood.
Right.
So we'll see. My next note was, what is it with the 90s and just having so much shit everywhere? I
mean, at least they didn't have an attic, because that attic I'm certain would have been nuts. But
and a whole bunch of like random like assorted like wedding dresses and stuff. Even though they're two guys, just would have been like a classic 90s attic or something. But in his apartment, he just had just stuff everywhere. And I feel like every 90s movie was just kind of like, oh, we need to have 5 million just things on every surface, everywhere, just covered. I mean,
I guess that is mildly more reflective of like real life. I mean, personally thinking about our house and how there's just stuff everywhere. I mean, we also have children.
2 kids.
But I mean, thinking like specifically of the woman in the kimono, like cardboard cutout, like just like that random artwork and things that it's like you purposely brought this into your home. The pizza box, that like the food is one thing because like kitchen mess understandably can go a day without being clean, or in their case, who knows how long. But definitely they had some random stuff.
But I feel like most 90s movies, they were just kind of like, all right guys, we're going to go back to the props department, we're just going to empty out the cabinets, and we're just going to put stuff on every surface we have in every movie. It just seemed like I always get like claustrophobic like watching some of these things. I don't know if that's even the right word for it, just overwhelmed by the amount of just stuff on every surface of everything in every 90s movie.
Yeah. And also, why does he have a scuba suit?
Yeah. Like those goggles, like prescription lens.
And Spike ends up wearing his scuba suit because he found it supposedly. But like, why in London do you own a scuba suit? Seems very impractical.
Just swim in the English Channel, I guess.
I guess.
Is that what they do? My next note was that we mentioned earlier, Misha Barton and Lester from The Wire. My next note was that it just feels so unrealistic. The whole plot just seemed very forced and
it feels like
unbelievable.
What the 90s wanted you to think was realistic. Like, I felt like I spent a lot of my childhood thinking that you just like happened upon celebrities regularly, and this like people just happened to fall in love with them. Like, it so many books and movies just like made this seem like it was a thing, and it's not.
And I don't know, maybe just because we're so used to it, but it just seemed like it would have been more believable, honestly, if it had been like a guy actor stumbling upon some girl in a bookshop. Just something about the whole relationship just didn't seem believable to me.
Yeah. And I don't think it was the acting. I think it was the writing. I think it was the way the story was set up was not great.
Yeah, it's just he was in there in this bookshop, and she is buying a book, and then suddenly they're kind of like somewhat talking. Next thing we know, he like spills some stuff on her, and then she's like kissing him in his apartment, and it just.
But I feel like she never really says much. She's like pretty silent, and then all of a sudden they're making out in his apartment.
Yeah.
She's just kind of like looking around the whole time.
I didn't buy the chemistry really.
Yes.
I
think it would have been more believable if the whole celebrity thing was taken out. Like if she just like was, I mean, an American, but like she could have been living there or whatever, that would have been fine. But if she just stumbled on his bookshop and then, bought a book and then, had the orange juice spilled on her and he was like, oh, like, let me help you get changed and like figure out, like that would have been so much more believable if she wasn't a famous actress. I think it was just that was just weird.
My guess is that this was based on a book and had like a good script, and they just cast two big name at the time actors and actresses, and they didn't have the chemistry because it didn't quite seem believable to me. And maybe if you had actors and actresses with better chemistry, it would have felt more natural and more believable of a storyline. But I didn't buy it really. I
agree. I felt the same way, and I wanted to like it more. I think I was just expecting more from like a 90s rom-com, but I mean, I also guess I should have known because Never Been Kissed was also a 1999 rom-com, and that was probably one of the worst movies we've seen so far. Pretty
bad. Speaking of bad though, that like random garden scene with the country song saying nothing at all, whatever, and the random like crazy crane drone shot they had there, that entire scene was just weird. They're just like middle of the conversation, they see a bench, and then all of a sudden they just like stop talking, she's at the bench, sits down at the bench, just moodily like staring at it, and they're playing You Say It Best When You Say Nothing at All, and the scene just ends, and you're like, that was weird.
And that's where I go back to, I also feel like the writing was weird because there was like not a lot of dialogue on Julia Roberts' part for so much of the movie, where she was just kind of existing, especially like the dinner party was super awkward until, I mean, like at the end, she was kind of like, leaning into the jokes a little bit more of like the group, but she was just kind of sitting there. And like, yes, as an outsider, I would feel really awkward in that situation too, but it's like even more awkward because she's like a celebrity and they all recognize her, and it was just like, I don't know, that she just like didn't say much, and then so he had nothing really to go on, and he was just kind of talking to fill the voids, and it was a very weird story.
I didn't like, it goes back to the whole like not really viable or believable there. Moving on, mentioned that Alec Baldwin was in there, and it was
very random,
30 seconds,
and also he looked super young. But also, and then my other thought on it was he just is always the same character. He's just that like big over the top personality that you're kind of like, I don't know how I feel about you.
And they also could have had like anyone play that role, because it literally was like a 30-second role, and it was in there for one scene and just there and gone.
Yeah.
At least he got a good payday, I'm sure. But my next note was that we kind of had somewhat of a 2001: A Space Odyssey reference with Julia Roberts' movie, whatever thing, Helix, where they're showing her like walking through the thing and like everything's spinning around. It felt very reminiscent of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and
definitely
that scene
derived from that sci-fi.
Yeah, I think we established that like all of those space movies were all like kind of
they all just kind of built
influenced by that
on one another, and then influenced everything else too, apparently.
And my last note was that she mentioned that she had a photo shoot, and there was someone there like took videos of it, made it look like a porno or something like that, and it happened a long time ago. And I'm like, okay, a long time ago from 1999, it would have been pretty hard to hide that someone had like a camcorder recording something there, video. Be very obvious. Nowadays, anyone on their phone could be recording anything. Anything could be like a video device. Then it was like, okay, let me go find the camcorder. Let me lug it up over my shoulder and let me like record this video thing. It was a lot less inconspicuous there.
Definitely, especially thinking like the video camcorder thing my parents had when I was young was like really high tech because it was like you could hold it in your hand and it didn't have to be on your shoulder. And like I have home movies recording other family members with the over the shoulder camcorder things, and that was, you know, not that much before 1999 that like it would definitely have to be
confused like, oh, that was a long time
over
ago.
the shoulder
okay,
thing.
Let's assume like at least 4 years ago, like 1995. Those were still pretty big.
Yeah, you can't hide that.
Yeah.
That's definitely not. I mean, my like Fisher Price toy video recorder was huge too. That was definitely not inconspicuous.
And I'm not saying like she wouldn't have noticed that. I'm just saying like that was bad writing. Like someone would have noticed that at that time.
Yeah, and I also just feel like they could have picked something better for her to be upset about.
Yeah, or they just like released photos. They didn't have to be like, oh, and they also recorded videos of it or something. It'd have been like, oh yeah, pictures and.
It's just more of the like not super believable aspect of it. But
so weird.
All right, ready for my notes?
Yep.
My first note is voiceover montage. Of course it is, because it's Hugh Grant and it's 1990 and
he's just so good at it.
And it's just it is what it is. I was just like, yep, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be when it comes to a 90s rom-com. And it was like a montage, which we were talking about. So it was like the montage with the voiceover, just like very quintessential rom-com there. And then my next note was, although his bookshelf is obviously very outdated, I would spend a lot of money there. I'm like deep in my wanderlust. I need to be somewhere that is not home phase in my life. And just looking at all the books on his wall, I was like, I could use some coffee table books, and I could buy a lot of books there. And just
especially in like a nice little cozy like British bookshop there.
Yep. Go get my cappuccino from
orange
across the street
juice.
or orange juice, you know, whatever tickles my fancy, and then go and sit and look through all those travel books. Like, I would have a good time in that bookshop. And I understand the appeal of wanting to open a travel bookshop. Like, I get it. I think about it all the time. And then my next note on those same lines is that this definitely predates the height of the internet, because nobody would go. I mean, like, I understand if you've been to places to have like coffee table books of Italy or, you know, wherever you've been, but I just don't know that you would specifically seek out a travel bookshop.
Well,
now
also,
that the internet exists,
like buying a book about like Istanbul in London just kind of seems weird. If you're just buying those kind of books, like a shop dedicated specifically for that just seems like a not sustainable business model.
Yeah, I understand why he was losing money. It was just very odd, but yeah, especially, I mean, just like living in 2024 where we literally have so much more information in our hands all the time than he had in that entire store. Just felt silly seeing that was his business.
90s were a heck of a time.
They were. My next note is that Hugh Grant is very funny, which I've already touched on. Just his timing was so good. I'm still like not over it. I definitely think in a rom versus com scenario, like it was definitely funnier to me than it was really romantic. And I think maybe that was like speaking to their chemistry was not great, but I did laugh a lot.
Yeah, I think it was two like actresses not really paired well together. Not that either of them is bad. I think he could have and probably did really thrive in a lot of those like 90s, 2000s, like rom-com type things, like About a Boy, and obviously Love Actually, a whole bunch of other ones that he was really good at. They just weren't really believable together.
And then my next note is I love the like cozy friend group feels. Like I love those like in any movie, like montages of, you know, friends having dinner together, and just in that like post-college, like family life times. Like I just feel like that just feels like
such. That's why you love Friends, the show, so much.
I do. I remember being
and How I Met Your Mother.
I know you weren't there because you were ill, but like our first like Friendsgiving party in, I guess it was grad school, but like after college, like we were cooking food for ourselves and being at this party and just being like, oh my gosh, this is like Friends. Like this is that time that they're describing in Friends. It's just like, you know, you're not, I mean, technically we were still in school, but like it felt like I was in that like transitional period. And I love that time. And I love now. Like I feel good about now. I don't really want to go back in time, but I love seeing those scenes of just people like existing in those friend groups
ribbing
and
on each other.
Yeah,
and all that.
I love them so much. And so to see that, and especially like with all their don't even know what the word is, like British isms, just like how they were like explaining themselves and telling their stories. Like I just loved it. Oh, can we go to London?
Whenever you want.
Awesome. Correct answer. And then my next note is ding. We have an Indiana Jones reference. So we have another Culture Night reference. Number reference will be listed below.
We had an Indiana Jones reference and a Harrison Ford reference before that. So we clearly had.
Yes.
It was like the movie was shouting to us, like, you need to ding this one because there's a reference here.
Ding. We had a lot of dings in sci-fi, and we have made it through episode 5 of RomCom without a ding yet. So it is about time, although this is not connecting to any other rom-com that we've seen so far. It is a Culture Night reference. So the movies we watch are still connecting to other ones. And then my last note is when she comes over and she's like all worked up and like all the news is out about her photos and everything, and she's all stressed. And his first thought is like, would you like some tea or a bath? And I'm like, and my first thought was like, would you like some tequila or like a cigarette or like these like really horrible things? And he's like, let me fix you a cozy cup of tea and draw you a bath. Just like how wholesome.
Like she's like, a bath sounds great. I'm like, you've seen this guy's apartment. There's just like stuff and like food and things everywhere.
I was like, you trust the cleanliness?
You're going to get in this guy's bath and these like pipes that are God knows how many centuries old. And that's what you want right now? I don't know.
I thought the same thing. My first thought was like, I just can't imagine how clean a male bathtub would be.
It's like, can I bleach this thing to hell first and then possibly get in?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was a bold choice. I understand they did it for the comedic timing of his roommate walking in, but like, I think I would take the tea and then say, throw a little something in it.
Yeah, tea with like maybe some Fireball in it. Yeah, cool.
But also that day that they spent together, like where they're also like, and goes along with this, his rooftop on his apartment or house or whatever he owned, like amazing. Literally my dream is to just like live in some little European neighborhood with a rooftop view of the city and just be comfortable and cozy all the time.
Hang out and just drink some tea, drink some wine.
Yeah. Amazing. Literally my dream.
Wear some sweaters. Yeah.
So I just really want to wear sweaters. I want to exist in a place where it's winter all the time.
See, speaking of sweaters, this is more of like a suit jacket thing, but that scene where he like walks through to show the passing of time, where he's like walking down a street and it's like springtime, then it's fall, then it's winter, then it's spring, like, or whatever. Like I was not expecting it. It was a pretty cool scene.
The harsh contrast with the snow was wild.
The one take type thing was pretty cool, but otherwise felt kind of like almost out of place in a movie like this to have that like
aggressive transition of passing of time. I also just felt like it was very unbelievable though that he wasn't wearing a jacket in the snow. Like that was my biggest like, but it's snowing. Like, yes, he might just be wearing a suit and I know his office isn't that far from his home, but like if it's snowing, he would have a coat on
and a scarf and like probably more.
Yeah, he would be bundled up. You know, we're just here to nitpick the technical things.
We just want him to be comfortable.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you haven't picked up in the last at least 2 episodes, I just want cozy fall winter vibes all the time. I want to wear good sweaters and I just want to be cozy. Oh man. So I don't really have any other notes. I did overall enjoy it. I did not think it was bad. If you haven't seen it and you want to just watch a rom-com, it's not the worst. There are better. I think.
Yeah. I would put it fairly low down on the list unless you just really want some sort of British or you're in a big Hugh Grant phase or something. But it was otherwise just a movie.
And so with that, I think we wrap it up for tonight. So if you enjoyed tonight's podcast, if you could rate and review wherever you are getting your podcasts. And if you are watching on YouTube, if you would like to subscribe to our channel and ring the notification bell so you can get notified when we post new videos, and go ahead and like this video, we would really appreciate it. Also, if you are not following us on Instagram, you should follow us at Culture Night Pod, and that's where we kind of post updates, especially when we are ill and we are not posting podcasts. That way you know that we are not going to be around that week. And you can also, if you have suggestions, thoughts, comments, whatever, you can email us at culturenightpod@gmail.com. And with that, we'll be back next week, hopefully, barring any other unforeseen circumstances, with a 2000s rom-com moving through the decades into the future. So we will catch you in the next one.
That's me done, lads. Cheers.
Cheers.